Make sure to stay till the end of the video, there's a surprise. Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. This video today is going to be a tutorial and I'm so excited to share it with you guys. Today we're going to be talking about interaction. Now you might be thinking, what's interaction? So my definition that is mixed with the definition on Google is the direct involvement of more than one subject and or objects in an illustration. Because of my big band of characters, I typically like to draw them interacting with each other, or I like to draw them interacting with objects. Since I want to be a good storyteller, I think that will require me including exteriors and interiors in my art and a bunch of objects and my characters interacting with each other so you can get the full scope. However, you don't need to be writing a comic or anything to want to draw two people together. Now, before I get into the tutorial, you already know what I'm gonna say. Use references, that's right, alright. Contrary to what CoComelon would have you believe, a baby's head is not bigger than an adult's head. And I made this little guide so you can see just about the difference between an adult size head and a baby's head. For this first exercise, we're starting with something simpler than what we'll be going into later, and that is just drawing two busts side by side. So what I'm counting as the bust is the head, the neck, and a piece of the shoulders. I'm not going down to the arms just yet, although some poses may include the hands further on in this tutorial. What I'm doing when I draw two heads is I'm trying to measure that the shapes of them are almost the same size. Not exactly the same size, but one head is an incredibly larger than the other, and one head is an incredibly smaller. It looks like people who are of the same age, and even though their head starts in and ends in different places, it's still roughly the same size. So what I'm trying to do is make their skull the same shape, like around the same size shape. You see me adjust Solomon and Chloe's head at different times to make sure that they're around the same size, and I'm going to show you with markers. With markers I mean lines. Like you can see that although you can see that Chloe's forehead is a little bigger than Solomon's, but Solomon's chin is a little bit longer than Chloe. The next thing we're going to tackle is overlap. So this is going to be two busts that overlap in certain areas, meaning parts of the bodies are hidden. So Jake's hand overlaps Dante's face minus her thumb, which is under Dante's chin, and then Dante's face overlaps Jake's face. So even though you can see like her face in the drawing, if I were to erase it, it would look like this. I wouldn't say it's easy to draw people interacting, especially since I still can't draw kissing, but that's because profiles or angles that are away from the camera are hard for me, and I still don't know how to draw lips all that well. I really should improve upon that. But once you keep in mind things like the skull size and proportions of individual bodies, which we're going to be going to in the next section since we're going to take things up a bit. But for example, the length of your palm to your middle finger is usually the same size as your face. So when I was drawing Jake's hand here, I wanted it to be the same size as her face. That's something that you would keep in mind. Same thing with your foot, and then your there's like other stuff. Oh, your forearm is your foot's length. I think that's what people say. Yeah, there's just little keys like that that will help you learn how to draw certain poses. There's other poses that get a bit harder when it comes to the way the body's laying down and whether or not I'm inexperienced with that or whether or not anybody's inexperienced with that. But overall, just starting off with these busts is a great way to get started, to do overlap in this minor way. And I think when you're getting to this stage, you really want to make sure that you know how to draw bodies in these situations, because it's going to make it even harder for you to try to draw these poses. And it might make you feel like you're not that great of an artist when you are. It's just, this is something you're a bit less practiced in, and that's okay because everybody starts somewhere. But I'd recommend just starting on a lower, like with a easier thing before going into interaction. For this next section, we're going to be talking about characters who have different heights, proportions, and a little bit of how to draw them in the same space when it comes to perspective. I've decided to choose my most contrasting characters, meaning Theo and Zoe. Theo being my tallest character and Zoe being my shortest character, who is also tied with Joey, except like little addendum, I think, is that what it's called? The baby Poe is the shortest kid, but like the shortest character I have, but I don't want to draw him this. So the main thing that you're gonna have to use when drawing two characters in the same space, like just in a line or whatever, is to figure out where the floor is. Wherever the floor is where your character's feet are, so you want them to end up being on the same floor, or otherwise it's gonna look like one character's floating and the other is, you know, at a like different place. You know what I mean, right? I hope so. So once you figure out where the floor is, the next step is to figure out the height of your character compared to the taller character. So for me, Zoe comes up to Theo's shoulder around. So when I drew her skull, I wanted to compare the sizes, make sure that they're the same as Theo's, and then from there I went into the proportions, and basically my task is to fit Zoe's body between her like where her skull starts and the floor that I've designated. You can see that their boxes are going to be a little bit bigger than each other because they're not supposed to take up the same exact space. They're just supposed to end up on the same floor. Now I decided to also draw somebody who's the same height as Zoe but has different proportions. This is also a very good exercise so that you can get comfortable drawing bodies in this confined space with the exact proportions. Now when I refer to the box, I mean the box is like the outline of where their body would be placed in, and then this is helpful when it comes to perspective. You may have seen some exercises online where they draw a box and they draw the box in like showing the angle that it's at, and then you have to fit the body within that space. So that's what we're going to be doing now, but it's just going to be 1 point perspective. Here's the box I've created. Now, when you're going to draw a character within this box, and you're going to use the top of the head and the foot to create two convergence lines that are going to go to the vanishing point. When I first did this trick, I made a mistake. Do you see those two red lines at the bottom that indicate both sides of Zoe's feet? I had used my character on one line but not the other, so I thought it looked a little weird in perspective. This usually would be fine, except my goal was to draw them standing in the same line, as if they were walking on a sidewalk down the same path exactly. That's why I added the second line and I redrew the character this time. Zoe's feet may be a little bit bigger than this person's feet, so I decided that it was okay as long as it was in between those two spaces and it wasn't hanging out on one side. Then I also decided to try and make Theo a smaller version so that you would see how small he looks when he's far away. You learned that at least I learned it in my psychology class that like big things look small far away or whatever. I hate it, to be honest. I don't like anything with illusion. It just creeps me out. Before we get into the final part of the tutorial, this is a big surprise I wanted to tell you guys. I have made a whole guide following this tutorial step by step so you can do it on your own at home, and I set out everything and I went through every step, and it is for free. In the future, I don't know if I'll be able to keep doing this for free because it was a lot of work and I was so tired, but I do want to know if you guys like this. I'll continue to do it, and I'll do it for whatever you want, as long as I'm not an expert, but as long as it's my area of expertise, so to say. So let's get back into the tutorial, guys. The link will be in the description for my Gumroad, and it will also be up on my website for free as well. So the last thing I did through all of this was put my skills to the test. I looked at a bunch of references. I tried to come up with a pose on my own, but it ended up not being exactly what I wanted, so I redid it over and over. And this is what I ended up with. I decided to draw Theo and Joey in a more romantic pose, where Joey's resting her head on, like underneath Theo as they embrace, and Theo has his chin planted on Joey's head. There's a lot of overlap that would happen in this design due to the fact that they both have thick, long locks that would probably get in the way, so I decided to try to sweep it like out of their face as much as possible so that you could see their face and tell that this is a tender embrace. You couldn't see Joey's mouth when I did the final design. That's on the unfortunate part of the overlap, but I think it's okay. I think that this is still conveying what it should convey in the end, and it was a really fun design to do. I think interaction is still hard for me sometimes, especially when there's challenging poses, but I do want to get better at it, and I think these basic stuff has helped me so far. But there's also supposed to be a part 2 to this tutorial where I include how to like draw objects in perspective and stuff, and draw objects with people in proper proportion. I could do that. The guide would probably be paid this time around though, and also I just don't know if you guys want that. Let me know. But yeah, this is the final thing. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all. Bye.